So it's been a few days since I posted. I've been incredibly busy. Um, just to recap for people that are finding this video off their suggested, this channel is a journal of mine where I just talk about things that are going on in my life that bother me in a kind of therapeutic way to help me, just get through life, just something that it just helps me. Nothing really to it. Reason I haven't made a video in a few days, I've been really, really fucking busy. Just got my car back from the mechanic, finishing up stuff to go to college. Work has been kicking my ass. I just haven't had the time or the energy to make a video. Um, but tonight I decided to make one, even though it's almost 3 in the morning. I started off tonight, I went to bed around 9:30, and I had a nightmare, woke up at around 11:30, couldn't get back to bed, took some sleep medication, still couldn't go back to bed. So I just got on my computer, watching movies, doing whatever. And I decided to watch The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I'd actually never seen it before. And my friends have told me about it and told me to watch it. So I did. I was gonna watch it and I honestly thought it was gonna be some kind of comedy. Because I have a friend, we call him Glasses, because he wears glasses, not his real name. But they always call him a wallflower. And I asked, well, I'm like, oh, why do you call him that? Like, oh, because he's like basically the main character from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like, that's how they describe him. So I was like, that's cool, he's a really funny guy. It's probably a comedy, probably something silly, because Glasses was a really funny guy. But, so I watched it. The first, like, 10 minutes, I was like, okay, I can see this being, like, interesting. I'll keep watching it, and just oh, I just kept watching it, and I know this isn't a movie review. This isn't a movie review. This is me talking about how the movie like affected me. I guess I bawled my eyes out. I bawled my eyes out like 5 minutes ago, and I haven't cried in so long. So I was like, this is something that I should take a video of and talk about, because this is something that's notable, something that could be therapeutic. So, watched it, and start to finish, no pauses. I kind of related to it, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, like, before if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna spoil the entire movie. I'm gonna spoil the entire fucking movie. So, if you haven't seen it, and you want to watch it for yourself, because dude, I want to go back in time 2 hours right now and watch it again for the first time. Nothing like it. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Please, please, please go watch it first, because I'm about to spoil literally everything. So when I say relate to it, I'm not saying like I am Charlie. I lived the exact same life. It says, obviously, I didn't have an aunt that molested me and died in a car crash, But when I started off ninth grade, I was most definitely a wallflower. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't do anything, like important and like at all. And I also like the way that I related, it didn't all happen in freshman year. I actually went to rehab halfway through freshman year and stayed in rehab almost until 11th grade because I kept getting out and going back in. And towards the end of 11th grade is kind of when I started to relate to this more, like when I think about it. But anyways, ninth grade I was very like, I tried to fit in. I wanted to fit in. I would, and there was one thing like really early on in the movie where they ask him, like, oh, do you like such and such? And he's like, oh yeah, I love that band. And like, oh Charlie, that's a store nearby. And I was like, like that's something I would do, is I would lie about liking certain music or certain activities so that way people would like me more, because I wasn't interesting. At least at that time I didn't feel like I was. I felt like I was just a blank vessel and that nobody would want to get along with me if I wasn't doing what they were doing, I was really into Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. Massive D&D player, massive Yu-Gi-Oh player, Magic the Gathering, stuff like that. And I was embarrassed. Even though, like, I loved it. World of Warcraft, like, was another really massive thing. It was the only video game I played for a while. And I was like, the way that people talked about it, I was like, I'll never just be able to start a conversation with one person at school about this. They're going to think I'm weird. So I never did. So I tried to match other people's hobbies, and that led me down a path of drugs, because I was so desperate for friends that I would do anything for people to like me. So when somebody offered me something, I'd do it. I started smoking weed, led to pills, other things, start expanding whatever, and then the worst part was is that those people still didn't like me. So then they ended up fucking ditching me and leaving me with an addiction, and that was the hardest part of high school for me. But like that really hit me, because like I was that kid. I was the kid that nobody wanted to be around, because I was quiet and I was weird and I was bullied. Even though I was on a sports team, I was on the cross country team. I ran the 18 mile and the 3 mile in under 18 minutes as a freshman, which for me is the number 3 freshman in my state, which was pretty cool. But nobody still it's cross country. If I was on the football team, maybe, but I didn't. Nobody liked me, dude. It was weird. Not weird, but you know what I mean. But and then it kind of got to, and there's two other main points that I really, really, really related to in the movie. And the first one was because when in and out of rehab, I went to a rehab in a state very far away from mine, and I met a lot of really, really good people there. Those friends that I made there are now my lifelong friends. My lifelong friends, my diehard friends, are the people that I would kill for. Because, and like, I've now flown to that state 3 times, over and over and over, gone all the way out and back just to see him. And I remember my first and my second time there wasn't like really anything special, because I kind of only stuck around with my best friend that I had met at that rehab, and I was still a wallflower. I would go to parties with him, and I would go and I would do things, and I would, just whatever. I'd go have fun, but I didn't stand out. I'd stick to the walls. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I didn't make any more friends. And then the third time around, between the second and the third time I went out there, a lot of stuff happened in my life that kind of grew me, I guess. It's not a really long story that we're already 8 minutes in. I don't want to get into that wholeheartedly, but like it changed me, like, internally, and made me a very anger and bitter person. But in turn, being anger and bitter also made me more extroverted. I was, I don't want to say tougher, because I'm not tough. I'm not a tough guy. But instead of standing on the walls, I'd go up to people and I'd talk to them. If they didn't like me, okay, fuck you. You know? And that kind of mindset, it was a really bad one. It was a really bad one, but it got me out there. And the last time I was up there, I, in doing that, realized that if I go up and I talk to people, that they like me. If I try and share my interests and be open and honest and be happy, that people do like me. So I never had to be like, okay, fuck you. I never had to do that while I was up there. Even though in my mind I was like, I'm gonna go up there, people don't like me, fuck that, I'm gonna stay happy. No, I went up there and I connected with people, you know? Like, I went up there with a heart full of fucking hate and came back better than I could have ever asked, In the bridge scene, there's this scene in the movie where sorry, not bridge, tunnel, where Charlie like gets his first like real experience of like true happiness and true friendship and those kinds of things, and it just like exponentially grows from there. You know, there's a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but overall, like he really, really, really makes like turns his life around. You know, and I think when I was up in that state, like, and I being back home where I am now, like back in the state that I'm at, I miss that. Like I never missed the state before. You know, I could have like before, like the first and the second time, the in between, I was like, oh, I could go back. You know, I might have fun. I came back this time and I was like, I want to go back so bad. Like there have been times when I've seriously been contemplating not going to college and just flying up there and couch hopping until I can buy myself an apartment. And it's crazy. It's crazy because why the fuck would you do that? I've already got accepted. It's paid for. Why would I just ditch that? You know, it's dumb. But I can't stop thinking about it. Obviously, I never would, but I really, really want to. And I guess it's kind of hard for me to explain, you know, because if you went and you watched, or if you have watched, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very hard for me to explain that when I was up there, I made connections and finally started doing things that made me happy, and talking to people that made me happy, and finally feeling truly, truly happy and connected with a group of people, because I've been a loner my entire life. I've never been a popular kid. I've never been in a clique. Nothing like that. I had one really good friend in 7th grade and 8th grade. He moved away in 9th grade. So I've almost my entire life, I wouldn't say been alone, but I've been a lot more antisocial than most people growing up are. I feel, I think. And so doing that really, really like, it's special to me. It's incredibly, incredibly special to me. More special to me than anything has ever been in my life. You know, and I love it. I will never let go of it, you know. So like watching the movie and seeing like those things play out, like it made me cry, you know, because I'm like, this is exactly how I felt, and seeing like the way that Charlie was reacting, you know, and how sad he was, and also Charlie having a really big struggle with mental health, you know. I say I've gone to rehab, but a lot of it was for mental health too, you know. I'm diagnosed with bipolar 1 and schizoaffective disorder, you know. So like those two things have shaped the way that I've grown, you know, interacted with everything in my life. It's been difficult, you know. And numerous suicide attempts, you know. Obviously, drug abuse and self harm came from that, you know, whatever. And so the movie hits way too close to home, and it hit way too close to home at the very end as well. The very end was probably when it hit home the hardest. So we're gonna skip forward. So I technically haven't spoiled the entire movie, you know, but I'm spoiling the biggest points. Anyways, so at the end of the movie, Charlie tries to kill himself, right? Something happens that really sets him off, you know. There a lot of, I believe it was like some kind of PTSD attack is what it seemed like, you know. I don't believe I've ever really had a PTSD. I've had anxiety, like, I know it's not diagnosed, we'll say that, but, and he also like blacks out. One thing that does like make me incredibly anxious is ambulance sirens. I've spent a lot of, like, I've had to be put in an ambulance a lot, you know, in my life, after like lots of crazy things, overdoses, suicide attempts, whatever. Ambulance sirens really freak me out. They freak me the fuck out, and they make my day like incredibly shitty, you know. But so he does that, and so like when he's like walking around and he's like kind of freaking out and crying, like I've been there because of ambulance sirens. I don't think mine would really count as a PTSD attack. I don't think I have PTSD. I just think I have a really bad mood disorder. But so when, at the very end, like he's like freaking out, he's going crazy, he tries to kill himself, he blacks out and wakes up in the hospital, right? after a little while, the truth comes out about, his aunt molesting him, and all that stuff. And throughout the entire movie, his father was very, like, I wouldn't say distant, but it was very much tough love kind of thing. And my father has not been very present in my life. He's tried to, but my mom got full custody when I was very, very young. And he does what he can, and he has tried very hard, but throughout all of that, I don't really think he ever learned how to parent and was more of, and this sounds really harsh. My father was a great father. He's a great dad. He's always been there for me, and he showed me unconditional love no matter what. But he doesn't know the proper way to handle a son. He treats me like a friend, like a really, really, really close friend that he just loves, And I guess that's always been hard because my stepdad's also never really been a father figure either. There's been some abuse in the past with that. We've worked through it. Nothing major, nothing to... CPS has been called, whole thing got resolved. Wasn't a big deal, but... So me and him have never been close, and to this day we still fight, not physically, but with words. And I can honestly say with my whole heart that I have no respect for him whatsoever, and the only love that I have is the love that he was present and provided for me, and not for him as a father in any way, shape, or form. So growing up, I never really had a proper father figure. And my dad was very much a tough love kind of guy. So when I started going through rehab and residentials and psych wards and dealing with everything that I had to deal with in the past 4 years, he never really sat down and was like, hey, I know this is hard and I love you. I can't remember a time when he did that. I can't remember a time where he genuinely sat me down and was like, Jonas, I know this is hard. Or even call me on the phone. I see him one time out of the year, once every year or two maybe. But he capitalizes on those moments as being fond memories and not growing moments, I believe. So, and this is the biggest thing. This is when I cried the hardest. This is why I'm talking about this in more depth, because this is when I cried the fucking hardest at the whole movie. But, so, yeah, sorry, sidetracked. I'll probably end up cutting this out when I go back through editing. Or if I get lazy, I won't. But, so he never sat me down and did that. He never wanted to talk about it. He never wanted to acknowledge that mental health was a thing. He was always telling me, oh, your diagnoses, those are fake. The doctors just want to give you meds. Those meds don't work. I actually agree with that. I think the meds, I'm not on any meds, which might sound crazy with my diagnoses, but I found that off meds and with proper coping skills, you can be just fine. Although I do think that sometimes medication is beneficial for a little while as a crutch while you get to that point. Because I think it's very difficult for you to reach that point without medication. Personal opinion. But yeah, now I'm off medication. I have been for almost a year. No meds at all. Completely stopped. But, anyways, he would always try to get me to come live with him. And for a little while I wanted to, but he wanted me to come live with him so that way I could be off meds and I could be under his watch and he could parent me the way that he wanted to and not looking at the way that he started to act. And as I've started to realize how he has acted as I've grown older, that would have been the worst thing for me, But, anyways, the big point is I've always received unconditional love from my father, but I've never received the right kind of care from my father. I know he loves me. I know he wants me to be safe and happy. And I've tried to tell him that I want him to show it. And therapists have tried to get him to show it. And he can when a therapist is sitting in front of him, but he can't do it when it's just me and him. If he was never able to do it in front of a therapist, I probably would have never gotten out of those places, because there would have been more to work on. But, outside, he doesn't, it's scary for him, it's hard for him, I think that's genuinely what it is, and he just doesn't know how to. Because he and I growing up, and this is why I still put up with my father, we grew up almost the same exact way. Like, almost like the way that my mom talks about my dad growing up, and the way that my dad has, like, the things that my dad has told me about him growing up, the way that my grandma and grandpa, my uncle told me about my father growing up. We were almost the exact same. The only difference is I actually grew my hair out, and he always kept it short. But, so I see that, and now that I've kind of diverged from that path. You know, I've diverged, and I've believed that I have, and it's sad, I believe that I've grown more than my father. You know, I still believe that my father is a child. I don't believe he ever gained emotional maturity. I believe he gained all the other maturities you can have growing up as a man in this world, and in the military of all places as well. Emotional maturity is not his thing, you know. But anyways, that's the story of my dad, you know, and how I've always wanted his affection. But at the end of the movie, when Charlie wakes up in the hospital and he sees his father kisses his forehead and tells him that he loves him, you know. And for me, like, it wasn't even the fact that his father was standoffish all the time and always gave tough love and then decided to show that, you know. I think it was the fact that for his father to show that love and that care, it took a suicide attempt. It took Charlie wanting to kill himself and then trying to kill himself for his father to show proper care and love, and not just being like, oh, good on you, sport. Good job, champ. Basically my dad. You know? It took all of that for his father to even give him a kiss on the forehead, not even give him a hug. You know? And that, for some reason, just broke me. It sent me bawling my eyes out. I started crying. Even when the next scene came up and they were talking about something different, I was still crying. I couldn't stop. And for me, it was because that is exactly how I felt when I was going from rehab to rehab, and residential to residential, psych ward to psych ward, even a wilderness camp at one point. And every time I would get out, my dad would show the love and affection that I wanted for a very short time, and then it would go away. It took suicide attempts. It took drug abuse to the max. Whatever I could do to destroy myself to see my father's love. Even a glimpse of it. You know? And it was hard. It was hard to watch that. But yeah, that is my video for today. That is my video. Go watch that movie. Watch it again if you've already seen it. If you watched it and you came back and watched it like I asked you to, go watch it again, because I'm about to. I'm about to do it because I still can't sleep. But, yeah. Yeah, there's the video.